I am 21, I'm a senior, and my first time using nicotine products was really just early freshman year, November, October. I really had no experience prior to that, maybe once or twice, but it wasn't intense usage. I used just disposable vapes, and I never tried Zens or any sort of pouch. It started out infrequent, only when you're drinking or in a social setting. And then it slowly progressed into before I'm going to bed, all day throughout the day, when I wake up in the morning, anywhere and everywhere. It definitely affected my physical health probably the most. I used to be super into the gym before I started vaping, and that was a huge part of my life. And then for solid two-ish, year and a half, 2 years that I was vaping, I did not go to the gym at all. And I also kind of used nicotine as a replacement for food. So then it also caused me to lose a lot of weight, which was not healthy either. That also took a mental health toll on me. My face started breaking out really bad too, and there were just a bunch of physical things that you don't think come along with vaping. Academic wise though, it was a reward actually. So I would say if I sit down and I study for 10 minutes, then you can hit your vape. And that was just a horrible reinforcement cycle, because I was reinforcing bad habit with bad habit almost, it was only 10 minutes of studying and then you get to put this chemical into your body. In terms of when I was actively vaping with no plan to quit, I thought it was fine. I honestly was there's no issue. I'm just having fun. This is just what people do. But I didn't realize the toll it was taking on my body, not only now, but also in decades from now when I'm older. It was fun for a long time, until I realized that in 40 years it's not gonna be fun. The time period between I thought I should quit and then I actively started to try to quit was nearly a year. And I remember talking to other, my friends who vaped, and we'd sit there and be oh, we really should quit. But we never had any intention to actually quit. It was seriously almost a year until I decided to really lay down the hammer and say, this is it. Right around the end of junior year was when I was okay, this is done. I wasn't buying any more pods. I would hit off other people still. And then I threw my own vape away at the end of junior year, going back home for the summer. That was when I was okay, we're done. This is it. It's been going on 2 years, right? Because you start and you don't think you're gonna keep going. And the next thing I looked back and I was it's been 2 years. I mainly decided to stop vaping because of the physical toll it was taking on my body. I realized I just couldn't work out like I used to. I had basically no endurance left, lost a lot of muscle mass, and I just decided that I couldn't keep living that way. The quitting process is really difficult. So when I started in that March of 2023, I threw my vape away, and then it wasn't even May that I was buying another one. And then I used that one through and I was okay, for real, we're done. And that was my last vape that I ever purchased, was in May of 2023. And then I slowly weaned off. Essentially all my friends at this point vaped. So I'd be with them and I would hit theirs. And it was a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. It was a good thing because it did help me wean off because I didn't have it with me all the time. However, it didn't allow me to fully quit. That process continued pretty much all of summer. It wasn't until November, so over Thanksgiving break, that I was completely going weeks, absolutely no nicotine. During my on and off cycle of vaping and not vaping, it was very taxing almost. You just keep disappointing yourself and you keep trying to achieve this goal, but it's so hard, but people say it shouldn't be hard, people say you shouldn't be doing it, and you're trying not to, and yet you keep failing. I felt a lot of disappointment in my experience. I knew this was a goal that I wanted to achieve, but I didn't know how to. I didn't have a ton of support when I was quitting just because all of my friends were still vaping. And so it was hard. I was kind of by myself on this little island, besides my friends who didn't vape. They were super supportive. I didn't have any friends that had quit. I only knew people that either didn't vape at all or were actively vaping. And so no one really knew what I was going through that I could talk to, be how did you do this? What should I do? That was a very emotional part of that journey and made it a little bit difficult. I actually downloaded a day counter. To this day I have it downloaded on my phone, and I remember looking up on Google how long are the withdrawal effects of nicotine. I think it was 14 days or somewhere around there. And I would have this little counter, and each day I'd open it and look at what day it was on. And every time that I would fail and I would hit a vape and have to restart, and it was just like disappointing. I was disappointing myself. And so that was a big tool that I used, was being able to look at the number. Once I was like absolutely no nicotine, I really stopped thinking about it as much. When you're kind of like weaning off it, you know you kind of have this option, but when there's no option at all, then it's out of your mind a little bit more. So like when I was weaning off it, I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna go to this person's room because I wanna hang out with them, but it's because I wanna hit their vape. You know, like it was like just not a healthy process. And so that like allowed me to really push nicotine out of my brain, was not having any access to it at all. And then the physical like side effects from vaping were really gone for me like pretty quickly. I was able to get back in the gym, get my endurance back up really, really quickly, and that was one of the biggest things that I realized, having absolutely no nicotine in my body. After I quit, I wouldn't say that my social life changed. It was just more difficult internally for myself. You know, you sit in a room with your friends and they're all passing a vape, and you have to like constantly remind yourself you don't want to hit that. And that's hard. I didn't avoid social situations, but it wasn't easy because they were all still engaging in that activity that I was trying to avoid. Now, in terms of being in situations where people are vaping, I am completely fine. I'm at such a point where there is no part of me that wants to hit that anymore, which is so nice. I think that quitting nicotine has positively impacted my life in a lot of ways, including the physical aspect that I've kind of already touched on. I felt a lot of embarrassment hiding it from people. My parents or my friends who didn't vape, it was embarrassing like going to the bathroom and like hiding it from people. Being able to have that weight lifted off me is very rewarding. I feel much more transparent with my friends and with everyone else because I'm not running away because I'm addicted to a little metal stick. One of my friends actually came to me asking how I quit once. I told this friend, you need to remove yourself from the environment. When your environment is you're surrounded by vaping, it's going to be so difficult. It's like if you're an alcoholic and you walk into a bar. In my opinion, I think that nicotine use, I would say, has been on the rise. I also think with the pouches, people are using those a lot more because it's like a healthier version of vaping, but I still feel like everywhere I look, people are vaping or using some sort of nicotine product, and it's really hard to avoid. I think the biggest misconceptions that students have about nicotine products is that because they don't feel harmful in the moment, that they aren't harmful. I feel like in our 20s, like the age that we're at, we think we're quite invincible and that nothing can hurt us, but it can and it probably will. I also think, oh, I only hit it when I'm drinking or I only hit it when I'm with my friends is another huge misconception because it's highly, highly addictive and will turn into an everyday occurrence before you know it. In terms of campus resources for quitting nicotine, I wasn't exposed to any resources. I also didn't actively seek any out. I turned to Google. I think some changes that could reduce nicotine usage among college students is just education in general. I know for myself, seeing facts about the dangers of nicotine helps a lot, even if it's just a poster. That really got me thinking because I like statistics and I like facts, and you can become a statistic. And so that was a big thing that helped me. I think awareness on how to help people quit is another big one. I would have really appreciated those resources being posted more publicly and being more accessible without having to actively seek it out. I think that the university or college campuses across the nation should be a lot more proactive with nicotine use just because it's so prevalent in college-age students. If I had to go back in time, I would definitely choose to never start vaping in the first place. It took a very negative toll on my life for a long time. However, I do think that it's taught me a lot about self-discipline and also that you can do hard things even if you're standing alone.